The grand charity gala sparkled with crystal lights, elegant music, and the city's most influential guests, but no one noticed the extraordinary moment unfolding beside the dessert table. As 6-year-old Ezra reached for the last chocolate truffle, another tiny hand touched it at the exact same instant. They looked up and froze. Standing face to face was a little girl who looked exactly like him. The same deep brown eyes, the same warm smile, the same curly hair, even the same curious tilt of the head. It felt as if they were staring into a mirror. "You look just like me," Ezra whispered in disbelief. The girl smiled softly. "I was about to say the same thing." After introducing themselves, they innocently shared stories about their families, only to discover that Ezra had never known his father, while the girl, Simone, had grown up without her mother. In the simple honesty that only children possess, Simone quietly said, "Maybe your mom should be my mom ... and my dad should be your dad." Neither of them realized that someone nearby had witnessed every second of their conversation, and the expression on that woman's face suggested she knew a secret that could change all of their lives forever. 3 weeks passed, and the unforgettable meeting slowly became a treasured memory. Then, without warning, fate brought Ezra to a brand new international school after his mother accepted another job in a different city. Changing schools had become normal for him, especially whenever questions about his father surfaced. On his very first morning, he walked nervously into his classroom, hoping to blend in like always. But the moment he looked across the room, his heart nearly stopped. Sitting quietly by the window was Simone. She looked up at the exact same moment, and once again, it felt as though two reflections had found each other. Unable to hold back their excitement, they rushed toward one another, leaving their stunned classmates speechless. During lunch, they compared birthdays, family stories, and the painful pieces missing from their lives. The similarities were too perfect to ignore. Neither child dared say the impossible words aloud, but both knew the truth was getting closer. With surprising determination, Simone leaned forward and whispered, "If the grown-ups won't uncover the truth, we'll bring them together ourselves." In that innocent moment, the two children quietly launched a plan that would soon uncover a secret hidden for years. That evening, Ezra nervously told his mother that the school principal wanted to see her first thing the next morning. It wasn't entirely true, but it was the only way he could convince her to come. His mother, Celeste, immediately sensed something unusual. Ezra had never been a troublemaker, and the guilty expression on his face didn't match someone who had broken a rule. Even so, she agreed to visit the school. The following morning, they were directed to a quiet rooftop cafe instead of the principal's office. The moment Celeste stepped inside, her world stopped. Sitting calmly at a table was Simone, the little girl who looked astonishingly like her. Before she could process the shock, another familiar figure stood up from across the room. It was Marcus, the man she had not seen in years. Silence filled the cafe as Ezra and Simone smiled, convinced their plan had worked. Then Simone looked directly at Celeste and softly asked, "Are you my real mommy?" The question shattered every wall that had protected the adults for years, and within seconds, long-buried memories and painful truths began rising back to the surface. The cafe fell into complete silence after Simone's heartbreaking question. Taking a deep breath, Celeste admitted that she was indeed Simone's biological mother, while Marcus was Ezra's father. The children couldn't understand why a family connected by blood had been living apart for so many years. Fighting back painful memories, Celeste explained that years earlier she had walked into a hotel room and believed Marcus had betrayed her with another woman. Feeling completely devastated, she left without giving him a chance to explain, taking Ezra with her and starting a new life. But Marcus calmly revealed a different version of that night. He insisted he had been drugged and deliberately framed, claiming someone had carefully staged the entire scene to tear them apart. For years he had tried to convince Celeste of the truth, but she had been too wounded to believe him. As the painful conversation unfolded, Ezra and Simone sat quietly, realizing that one misunderstanding had stolen years from their family. Before either child left for class, Simone gently held Celeste's hand and whispered, "Promise me you won't disappear again." Those simple words pierced deeper than any accusation, leaving both parents overwhelmed by the weight of everything they had lost. For the next 2 days, Ezra barely spoke. He quietly packed his things, convinced another move was coming, while Celeste secretly prepared their suitcases, trying to believe that leaving was still the safest choice. Across the city, Simone cried herself to sleep, begging her father not to let Ezra disappear from her life. Then, on the day of their flight, fate intervened. Just before Celeste and Ezra reached their boarding gate, a woman from the past suddenly appeared. With tears in her eyes, she confessed the truth she had hidden for years. She admitted that the hotel incident had been carefully planned, that Marcus had been drugged, the room had been staged, and Celeste had been manipulated into believing the worst. Marcus had been telling the truth all along. The confession shattered everything Celeste had believed for 6 painful years. Every move, every goodbye, every lonely night had been built on a terrible lie. As Ezra silently looked at his mother, she realized she had one final choice to make. She slowly picked up her suitcase, turned away from the departure gate, and whispered the words that changed both of their lives forever. "We're not leaving. We're going back home." Instead of boarding the plane, Celeste turned around and drove straight back to the school. As classes ended that afternoon, Ezra searched the crowd until his eyes landed on Simone waiting quietly near the gate, expecting only the family driver to arrive again. The moment she saw Ezra running toward her, hope exploded across her face. The 2 children rushed into each other's arms, holding on as if they were afraid fate might separate them once more. Then Simone noticed Celeste standing only a few steps away. Slowly, she walked over and looked into the face she had dreamed about for years. "You're staying?" she asked softly. Celeste knelt beside her, took her little hand, and answered with tears in her eyes, "Yes. This time I'm not going anywhere." Later that evening, they arrived at Marcus's home, where the atmosphere felt strangely warm and familiar. While Ezra and Simone happily sat together doing homework at the kitchen table like they had known each other forever, Celeste quietly prepared dinner. When Marcus walked through the front door and saw his children laughing together with Celeste in the kitchen, he stood frozen in disbelief. Celeste finally told him she knew the truth about the hotel incident and that she had been wrong all those years. Without another word, they embraced, letting years of pain, regret, and misunderstanding melt away. For the first time in years, the house no longer felt empty, it finally felt like home. Over the following weeks, life slowly settled into a rhythm neither child had ever experienced before. Every evening, the 4 of them shared dinner around the same table, filling the house with laughter instead of silence. Ezra patiently helped Simone with her homework, while she insisted on making every little family decision, from decorating the living room to choosing flowers for special occasions. One crisp autumn morning, the children secretly transformed the house with white flowers, glowing balloons, and handmade decorations. When Marcus and Celeste walked into the living room, they found a small owl waiting for them. Smiling proudly, Ezra and Simone walked side by side carrying a large banner they had painted themselves. Written across it in bright golden letters were the words, "Operation One Family, Mission Accomplished." Marcus couldn't hold back his laughter, and Celeste's eyes filled with tears as they exchanged heartfelt vows in front of the 2 children who had fought harder than anyone to bring them back together. In that quiet room, they weren't celebrating a perfect love story, they were celebrating a family that had survived heartbreak, found the truth, and chosen each other again. Months later, the house no longer echoed with loneliness, it was filled with the sounds of a real family. Every morning began with breakfast around the same table, and every evening ended with stories, laughter, and the comfort of knowing no one had to leave anymore. Ezra and Simone, once complete strangers, had become inseparable siblings, arguing over homework, racing through the hallways, and filling every corner of the home with life. The pain of the past hadn't disappeared, but it no longer controlled their future. Marcus and Celeste had learned that trust could be rebuilt when truth was stronger than fear, and together they promised never to let silence or misunderstanding tear their family apart again. One afternoon, while cleaning the kitchen, Celeste discovered an old paper napkin tucked safely beneath a spice jar. Written across it in childish handwriting were the words "Operation One Family," followed by 2 tiny signatures, Ezra and Simone. She smiled through tears, realizing that the impossible future they had dreamed about had quietly become their everyday reality. The family that had once been separated by lies was finally whole, proving that love, patience, and truth could heal even the deepest wounds. Years later, Whenever people asked Ezra and Simon how they had become such an inseparable brother and sister, they would simply smile at each other. They both knew their story hadn't begun with happiness, it had begun with a single chocolate truffle, an impossible resemblance, and two innocent children who refused to accept that families were meant to stay broken. One brave decision after another had uncovered a truth buried beneath years of lies, healing hearts that had almost given up forever. Marcus and Celeste finally understood that love can survive even the deepest misunderstandings when people choose truth over fear. As the family gathered around the dinner table that evening, Ezra looked at the faded paper napkin framed on the kitchen wall. Across the top, in childish handwriting, were the words Operation One Family. He smiled because what had once been nothing more than a dream had become the life they were now living every single day. Sometimes, the greatest miracles don't happen because of fate, they happen because someone is brave enough to fight for the people they love. If this story touched your heart, don't forget to like this video, subscribe for more unforgettable stories, and share it with someone who believes that true love and family are always worth fighting for. Tell us in the comments which moment moved you the most: the first meeting, the airport confession, or Operation One Family. Your comment might inspire someone who needs hope today.